podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
It's Lindsey and Krista. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being OG fans. I know you all are out there, and if you're new to the show,
welcome.
Where'd you find us? I'm always so curious.
There's actually a lot of people have been messaging me. They're like, I'm new to the show.
I know.
Blah, blah, blah.
Always finding it at the right time, which I'm really grateful for.
Completely agree.
And we're in person. We're together.
IRL together. I picked up her from the airport this morning. Said I'd have bulletproof. I didn't.
We're divorcing.
Yes.
Yeah, I flew in from New York. I'm here quite a bit this month, which is great. We're getting so much in. Lots of interviews, and it's been really good. The flight across country is no joke. I keep thinking about Kim Kardashian. I don't know why.
Going to Wyoming?
No, just flying. Just flying everywhere. And then I was like, what? She's on a private jet.
She's not flying any more than anyone else.
Yes, I feel like she is.
On a PJ.
I feel like celebrities are always just going back and forth.
Yeah, they
from
do.
New York to LA.
They rip around the world.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's just funny because back in the day when you're younger, you're like, oh my gosh, that's like so sexy. Mm-hmm. You know, you're like, bi-coastal, sexy. Yeah. I used to, like, when I was in the corporate world, they'd be like, okay, we need you to go to Decatur, Indiana. And I was like, sick. Mm-hmm. I'm traveling for work. I literally thought anywhere I went for work, I was like, fucking sick. Traveling for work.
Get my own hotel room.
I'm busy. Literally, I'm busy traveling for work to Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, I just watch when I'm not the best in the air. I just feel like shit. But I watch this like vein under my eye just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger when I travel. It's very weird. I don't really know why. But we saw Manuela today, who you've been going to for quite some time. She's a healer, intuitive. Yeah.
Shaman.
I stopped because she said today, she's like, oh, I don't call myself a healer. I call myself
blah, blah. That's the thing with all healers. They're like, I'm not a healer. It's you healing you. You're like, okay, but what do I call you?
Healing facilitator.
Yeah, everything like moves. The goals always move. It's like when you call someone something and then like it catches on, people are like, no more.
Yeah.
I'm no longer a coach. I'm a mirror. I'm a mirroring guide. I went to this one healer. I did this one healer session. She's one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram, but I did one of her sessions and it was called a mirroring session. It was.
You're like, I don't want to look at myself in the mirror.
The mirroring was me asking her 100 questions about her and her life and me not getting anything out of it. So that was my whole mirroring experience, was because it was such a mirror of like, leave it open for possibility. I was like, oh, wow.
So what did you learn? That
nothing.
You like to ask a lot of questions.
She was like, this was incredible. I was like, I've learned. It wasn't her fault at all. It was completely mine. But I was like, oh, this is too much flexibility in it all.
Mm-hmm. I need structure with my
What
healings.
was I going to do? Be like, anyways. Mm-hmm, so we were with Manuela today.
We were with Manuela, and she was saying, she looked at me. She's like, oh, you need to eat before you get on a plane. Because like, it's very grounding to eat before you get on the plane. And like, if I'm up in the air, I'm already Vata as far as my dosha goes. And so it's very air. And then I'm up in the air. And then I'm like taking on everyone's shit in the air.
Then you're an airhead. Then you're a freaking airhead.
I feel like a fucking airhead when I fly. But yeah, it's good to be.
Are you air signs? What signs are you? Gemini's air, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm air, and then Libra is air.
Wow.
Isn't that weird? No wonder I'm stupid.
Yeah, honestly. It's funny because that's like back when I grew up in like in Ohio, my mom would be like, don't be an airhead. And I'd be like, like calling someone an airhead. But the hygiene of flying is like such a craft and a skill. And it's one of those when you actually take the time to be like, I'm going to wear the right outfit.
Yes.
I'm going to pack the right food. I'm going to be, I'm going to have the right things to do. I'm going to journal. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to have the right intention with my time. It's so rewarding. Mm-hmm. But when you're not, it's hard to do that every time you fly.
Well, I just forget.
Of course.
But I think because I'm going to be flying a decent amount this year, I'm going to get into like a whole damn routine with like my biohacking on the plane. But I had not to like talk about sponsors, but I will because it works. I had my Element for hydration on the plane, was so important. So I had
You're addicted.
I'm addicted. 24 ounces of water and Element, which is like an electrolyte mix with no sugar.
The grapefruit flavor.
You like the grapefruit?
I love it. It's the best flavor of them all.
Yeah, I just tried it. I really like it.
I love grapefruit.
Mm-hmm.
What's our code for Element?
Element is drinkelement.com/almost30. Let me.
And you guys get free Element. Actually, you can try it for free.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's key.
That's key. And then I have my BLUblockers, the Remedy sleep mask. So if I want to sleep, I wear it every single night at home because we don't have blackout curtains. So I actually need it to sleep. And on the plane, it's essential. Mm-hmm.
When we would fly internationally for tour, I would be able to get a full 8 hours of sleep, maybe more. There was times I got like 13 hours.
Pissed
of sleep.
Me off that you slept the whole time.
My neck's all crazy.
You guys should see Krista, the way in which she's able to sleep.
She'll creative.
She'll lock her hands behind her head and then lay her head on the little.
Or it's like, have you ever seen those? I do something with I lay my table down and then I put my backpack on top of it and then I lay on top of that.
Very smart.
I usually like to bring chlorophyll water, mineralized water drops from Sakara on the plane, and then like athletic greens, like a greens is good. Element is really good. BLUblockers is good for blocking out just light when you want to sleep. What are some other things that they always say for you to bring? I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what? Comrade socks.
Oh,
having
the best. I don't know if they sponsor it or they don't sponsor, but maybe the code works.
Yeah.
Try almost 30.
Try almost 30. Comrade socks, they have, what are those called?
Compression socks.
Compression socks are really good for your circulation during long travel.
And then if I'm on my computer, just because I do get headaches really easily with the blue light, so I'll wear my BLUblockers.
Yep.
Sometimes the summer glow because it's like a yellow hue, so I feel like I'm kind of outside. And then I don't really eat while I'm on the plane, but if I do, like a good bar, like a bar that's like super clean, like a Go Macro or a Better Bar, or so yeah, I'm gonna get it down to a damn science because I feel like I rolled up today. I was like, hello.
I know.
Energy.
I know. I did hear though that it's hard for your body to digest when you're in the plane. That it's hard to digest when you're in air.
Yeah, that's why I don't. She said I should eat before, but I'm like, I don't like to eat at like 5 a.m. and then get on the plane. It's not my vibe.
Yeah.
But
I do like to bring a journal and just kind of like, okay, what is my intention for the time? You know, like how am I going to use the time? Or else I'm just like doing stupid things, but I'll try and journal. I'll try and like make that my time to make my manifestation list or make my goal list.
Yeah. Just
like do a check-in. And then what I'll also do, there's an app that I use that I really love. It's called Smart Cleaner. And was my app idea and created into an app. But I used to say that they should create an app that deletes your duplicate photos on your phone. So like, you know, when you take a photo, we just took photos of us and Manuela today, and we probably have 9 and they're kind of the same.
Yeah.
So we only need one of them.
Yeah.
So Smart Cleaner goes through and it gives you the option to delete all of the duplicates, and it picks out the best one based on lighting, based on people looking at the camera. And so it can clean out all of your photos. So I'll usually do that on the flight is turn on my Smart Cleaner app and it'll go through, and then I'll have to manually choose like, yes, please delete the other 8 and all of that. So it goes through videos, photos, screenshots, everything. And that's helped keep my memory for my phone in great shape. So Smart Cleaner is an app that I use. You have to pay beyond a certain point, but I would definitely get the free trial. But it's really
super smart
because I don't want all those photos. Because also too, if you think about it, if you edit photos, people use Visco, people use whatever. There's almost always a few versions of one photo on your photo roll at a time.
Yes.
So
I also, if I can help it, if I don't have to be online for work, I'll not be online at all during the flight.
Oh yeah.
Sean taught me that. He's like, oh yeah, that is my time.
Yes, 100%.
Yep. But I also like being productive. So, and it makes the time go by. So I just kind of have to see how I'm feeling.
100%.
But yeah, Brooklyn is amazing. I keep saying it. It's crazy. I'm like, I am that cheesy person that's like, I fucking love it. But I fucking love it. It's surprising me. Very, very much so.
Brooklyn Heights is special.
Yeah.
It's groovy.
I know.
It's like jazz music 24/7.
Jazz music, trees, birds. It's wild. But I do have to, I'm noticing this like need for grounding. We're pretty high up in our building. And then also just, there's subways everywhere underground. So just like finding ways in which to ground. So I'm like going to the park and just taking off my shoes and like being in the grass or even
Stepping
going
in
near the
piss.
water. Yeah. Stepping in poop. Just getting poop between my toes.
God, literally. It's key though. Manuela was saying that. Did she say that to you? You need to get closer to the ground.
She was saying about the subway system. Yeah. Just how it's like, it's a lot on my nervous system, even though I'm not really on the subway and I don't feel it, but like, obviously it's there.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, how in New York, there's so many ways to be desensitized where you have to like tune down your sensitivities and like being on the subway is one of them. With all the sounds, all the noises, all the people, you really have to turn off.
Yes.
Any sensitivities that you have.
Protecting. Yeah.
Protecting.
I do a little like,
yes.
Just a little bubble around me.
Yes. Yeah, I was grounding after our session with her last week. I went to the park. There's that park close by. Lost one of my AirPods, which was sweet because I was like sitting in the ground by it was so weird. I was like sitting on the ground by this tree and this girl's dog walked by and I didn't reach for it. I was just like, hello, dog. And she's like, oh, could it come to you? It doesn't come to everyone. I just got it from the shelter and we're trying to socialize it. And I was like, sure. I ended up talking to this woman for like 30 minutes and her dog about like how much we love fostering animals. Aww. It was so cute.
And he ate your AirPod.
I think he did. I think the little fucker ate my AirPod. No, but I literally was like, I've had this AirPod for a day.
Oh, you're not meant to have AirPods.
I completely agree because every time they're in my ear, I can feel
the EMFs,
the tentacles of my destruction. I can feel like tentacles of pulsating energy.
Yeah.
It's just not the vibe.
Just get the little stringy.
Ugh.
That's what I feel like a lot of our friends have that because they're hip to the EMFs.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should get that.
Yeah.
Dude, the best thing for EMFs before we get into this episode is the SomaVedic.
I got mine.
You guys, new sponsor.
That
I manifested.
Yes, you did.
It was at Dr. Danny, so I go to an amazing intuitive chiropractor here in Los Angeles that we've been seeing for a long time. Her name's Dr. Danny. She does Reiki work, and then she does craniosacral and chiropractic, and I see her maybe once a month just to kind of get like a tune-up. And she had one in her house, this one of the SomaVedic EMF devices. And I was like, oh, what is that? She's like, it's SomaVedic. It protects you within like 3,000 square feet of your house from EMFs, from like junk radiation, from all these different things. I'm like, oh my God. And I was like, I want that. And then, 2 weeks later, Bess is like, oh, new sponsor, SomaVedic.
So wild.
They sent one to the house. I was like, frick yeah. And it's the best.
I just you put it in the center.
Yes.
And it just covers.
Yep. It's just it's basically like a green light machine, and they have different variations and different types of the SomaVedic device. You can pick whichever one is the best fit for your house based on, where you live, how much EMF or radiation or junk energy waves you have potentially in your area. And the one I got is basically the basic one. And it basically mitigates the harmful effects of EMF. It helps with cellular regeneration. It harmonizes your body when it's exposed to EMF and just creates like a really beautiful, coherent field in the home. And I've loved it.
You can even put your like bottles of water
near and structure that? Oh, I'm going to keep the Berkey by that.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep. It's very, very cool.
It's so dope. What's the code?
The code is almost 30 for 10% off. So good.
So it's SomaVedic, SomaVedic, and then it's almost 30 for 10% off. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Super important. And it's one of those things that like, because we have so many devices, we're not really noticing the effects.
Yes.
We're probably blaming it on other things, but I think the root of a lot of these causes, like lack of sleep, etc., are the EMFs.
100% agree. I have another device I'm biohacking Barbara over here. Call me Dave Asprey. Is my Aura Ring, which is, I'm hoping they sponsor you guys. This is my manifestation. in action. But it tracks my sleep, it tracks my heart rate variability, it tracks my steps, like my basal metabolic rate, my body temperature, and I'll notice my sleep. I've been obsessed with watching my sleep, and it is crazy that some nights I'll be in bed for 10 hours.
Wow.
And I'll get maybe 8 hours of sleep, and it's not like all that quality.
So what have you like been able to kind of track what is affecting the quality?
Melatonin.
Okay.
Fucks with my quality of sleep.
Wow. Taking it.
Got meditation before bed, helpful. I took Proper, that's that supplement. They're not a sponsor, but it's called Proper Sleep. I had really groovy dreams. I think it's the GABA in it. Really groovy dreams. Slept pretty well.
There's I'm gonna get it wrong.
Quaaludes?
Qualia.
Oh yeah, Qualia. No, I ran out of Qualia sleep. I freaking love their stuff, and I ran out. It was one of those sleeps where you feel gooey. You're like, oh, you wake up and you're kind of like, yes.
Yeah, it's by Neurohacker.
Yes.
So that's Qualia, and it's their night supplement just for relaxation.
And then my sleep, I was noticing too on my Aura ring that my sleep would be better if I was wearing my Remedy sleep mask, or 100%. If I had worn the red glasses in the hours before bed, or the blue light blockers during the day. And I want to do a test too with my red light therapy device, because I have a red light therapy device, and we talk a lot about it in this episode with Andy Mant, if that affects my sleep as well, because that helps with your cellular regeneration and things like that. But yeah, all of that, but all in the same vein of this conversation today with Andy Mant. He's a friend of the show, and he's the founder of BLUblox, who we've been working with for years. We actually did an interview with Andy Mant a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when we were in Australia on tour. And it was such a fascinating conversation. All of the information that I learned from that, I still talk about
same
regularly.
You guys will too, listening to this. Grab your notebook, and you're going to be the smartest one in the room.
It's all about, like in the original conversation, we kind of circled back on it today, light quality and how we can use light in our lives, like the sun, to actually give us benefit, give us energy, give us vitamin D, and not be fearful of it for like aging, for sunspots, for anything like that. It's actually how you work with light and the sun is really, really important. And then we talk a lot about blue light. We talk a lot about red light therapy, which is one of my favorite things. And we really go into like more biohacking science, ways in which we can adapt in the modern world to be our healthiest self.
And what I love too, just on your point of working with the sun, I think like we are told like the sun is bad, stay out of the sun. And there's very specific ways in which we can be leveraging the really good blue light and the full spectrum of blue light that the sun emits. It's that natural blue light. For example, if you're going to be going somewhere where you might get a sunburn and you don't necessarily want to use a ton of sunscreen, because there's stuff around sunscreen that isn't so great for our skin all the time in our bodies, that you can increase the melanin in your skin over time. So maybe 6 months before you go away. And he's giving us very tactical ways in which we can build the melanin, which was super, super fascinating. And yeah, I love him. He is like a wealth of knowledge, such a seeker and a curious being who like goes directly to the studies. Like he is always researching and questioning and just making sure that he is reading everything, because there's so much information out there. It's hard to discern. So I love him so much. And BLUblox now has their red light therapy devices, which we've been waiting for.
And I'm so excited about. So I've been doing red light therapy for a long time now. I actually don't have my device yet through BLUblox because they just actually came out with their devices. But I've been doing it for over a year now, and it's helped my recovery from workouts. It's helped soreness. I've helped like my muscle tone. It helps with cellulite. It helps just so many things. I feel like it's been a really big benefit. My skin has been a huge beneficiary of it.
Big time.
Like I don't feel like I used to have as much fine lines as I used to, because it helps with your collagen production through the cellular repair work that it does. But I'm excited to get the BLUblox one because they have no EMF coming from it. And that's the thing, is my red light device, people would tell me it's amazing, but there's tons of EMFs from it.
Yeah.
And so Andy got theirs tested at BLUblox, their EMF device, and they said that they have no EMF coming from it.
And no flicker.
Low EMF, sorry.
Yeah,
low EMF.
Low EMF and no flicker. So a lot of lights have a flicker.
Yep.
So if you were to slow it down or like take a video of it, you would see a flicker, which is really harmful. And they have no flicker.
Yeah,
so.
that's why bulbs at like corporate companies. Yes, when you have that fluorescent lighting, that's why fluorescent lighting is bad for your eyes, because it's flickering at a very, very, very fast rate that your brain is sort of picking up on and causes like general stress and anxiety.
Yeah. So the red light can improve your sleep, increase your strength and endurance, can help with autoimmune conditions, fight hair loss, speed healing from injury. I actually sent one to my mom last year. She was healing something on her hand, and it was so helpful just to put on it every single day, and all with very little to no side effects.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
It's amazing. So BLUblox, partner of ours, the code is almost 30 to get a discount. Lindsey and I love their blue light glasses. I have the Magnums, and then I also like the Summer Glow. There's like the Lennon, not the Lennon ones.
I love the Arrow Summer Glow.
Yeah, the Arrow Summer Glow, but they have really cool styles. And then we also use the Remedy Sleep Mask. So the Remedy Sleep Mask helps us to sleep more deeply. We use it most nights in bed and then when we travel. So these are pretty much our light hygiene toolkit. And then we'll also be getting the red light from BLUblox. And we love them because it's just a couple that owns them. They're out of Australia. They're incredibly thorough about their testing, about their research, and they're just like really, really good people that make quality products. And their blue light glasses are some of the only ones that actually work. There's a lot of blue light blockers that come out that are actually just really cheap frames that actually don't block the certain light bands that are appropriate to block when you're looking to really be thoughtful about your blue light hygiene.
Yes. Yeah, because a lot of the ones that you'll get on like Amazon, the cheapies, don't work.
They don't
so
work.
You've got to be careful. Okay, excited about this one. And before we get into the episode, just wanted to mention and let you all know that we will be altering our episode cadence every single month. So we're going to be doing an episode every single Tuesday as usual, and then 2 Thursdays a month. So we're excited about that. Yeah, it's just kind of a change and
just
an evolution.
What's going on.
Yeah.
It's just what's going on.
It just is.
It just is.
We felt like you had a lot in your box, so we're just kind of pulling out a few.
No, it's good. I feel like we just want to put out baller. Every episode we want to be really baller. We also have the extra episodes in the membership that we release every month. And then we're also doing so many courses and programs and emails and lives and everything like that. So you guys know where to find us, but we're really excited to just really up the ante with every guest that we have on and make every episode even better.
Amen. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you, and we will catch you on the other side of this episode.
Yeah, we love you. So we're so glad to have you back. I think there's a lot we can talk about today in the biohacking space. I know you guys just released a red light therapy device, which I'm so excited about. And there's so many articles on your blog and on your YouTube that are just fascinating. So welcome back to the show.
Hey, honor to be back. Yeah, it's been so long. I can't believe it, because I remember when we met up in Sydney, 2019, we then planned to come out and see you guys in LA in April 2020, and then all hell broke loose and we had to cancel our trip and get behind Fortress Australia, and we're still not allowed out. We haven't been allowed to travel outside of our country since March 2020, and they're not going to open the borders until middle of 2022. So yeah, we're proper imprisoned at the moment. We can't go anywhere.
Wow. Yeah, I wanted to check in, just thinking about 2020 and how that drastically changed the way our day to day goes. I'm curious, like how you adapted, especially, through the lens of like biohacking and making sure that, your health is optimized in that like very specific and very stressful time.
Yeah, I mean, it was twofold, really. I mean, we were fortunate, I guess, when the proverbial hit the fan. It was still kind of summer, autumn here, which is still pretty warm. The sun's always shining. So being sort of in a 6-week initial lockdown, we were okay because we could just go outside. We could be in our gardens, we could take in the natural light. And, from our previous conversation, that natural light gives you serotonin, dopamine, makes you feel great. And it was okay. We were like, this will be over by June, winter will come, and off we go again. The big issue came really with the lack of human to human contact we were all allowed, which meant that we had to do more of what we're doing right now, which is jump on a Zoom call, which exposed people to more and more blue light when they weren't. So, we saw a massive increase in sales over the COVID period. And that was not from any kind of specific advertising, taking advantage of the pandemic or anything like that. It was just people just suddenly a switch flicked in them to say, you know what, we're going to be exposed to more blue light here. We actually need to research this a little bit more, and we need to start protecting our eyes and our hormones. And, we saw so many more people take on the blue light, management during the pandemic, which was really great to see because, we only have to sort of read the stats of, sort of depression rates, domestic violence, suicide rates during the pandemic that, something's going on here that's causing people to act in a very different way. And, just having that isolation from humanity is one of those things, but also that intensification of blue light and lack of natural light is really, intensifying that situation. And I feel from, you guys up in the Northern Hemisphere that, when all this hit, it was, it was sort of the end of winter, it was depressing times anyway. So yeah, it must have been so tough, but yeah, we had to get a lot more biohacking in, and, off the back of it, red light therapy, which we can talk about a bit later on, came to the forefront of our sort of minds as well as something that could really start to, elevate people's moods a lot more and help people recover from, bouts of feeling down and just bring some proper good light into their lives, really, in the midst of this horrible pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, in LA, we don't really have seasons, so we weren't in the winter. We weren't really in any type of season because it's always the same here. But I definitely think we have a girl on our team in Canada, and I mean, I could only imagine having to be inside. In a lot of places, you weren't even allowed to really go outside. So that was like, a whole issue in itself. But it's such an interesting thing, when you think about your business and you think about what you do with red light, blue light, biohacking. It's like, obviously you want to grow and you want everyone to be aware of light hygiene, but then too, it's like, this is the effect of how our new lives and how we're all working from home, or most of us have been working from home, and now we're in front of the computer so much more, we're in front of people so much less, we're on Zoom calls all the time. So it's like that catch-22 feeling where you're like, I'm so thankful that everyone is now becoming more thoughtful about their light, but then also people are inside that much more, and people are on their computer that much more, and people are really stuck in this certain place so much more. I'm so interested about the link to depression and, how light hygiene can affect that. Is it that the blue light prohibits serotonin from being released because we're not getting the full spectrum, or what's exactly happening from a chemical perspective as far as your mood and light?
Yeah, it's more of a dopamine story when it comes for depression. So typically people that suffer from sort of that depression, anxiety, those types of sort of neurological conditions, they can't seem to get enough dopamine for some reason. The dopamine receptors aren't working as well as they should be. So you can't get those sort of reward feelings. It might have been abused from too much dopamine in the past, or it may just not be functioning properly. And on the serotonin side of things, that's more of a sunlight story. So serotonin is really key in uplifting mood. It's also amazing for helping sleep later on in the day. But if you're not getting enough natural light, so all the different colors, not just blue light, UV, infrared light, during the day, then you're not going to develop enough serotonin. And, depression and mood-related disorders always originate in the gut, and that's where serotonin is produced. So it's sort of twofold: the serotonin on the neurotransmitter side and dopamine on that sort of hormonal side. And when it comes to light, what happens is blue light triggers dopamine release. Okay, so when we go outside and we see a beautiful blue sky on a lovely sort of summer's day or spring day, whatever it may be, you instantly feel great being outside. It's that sort of feeling that everyone gets. You know, if you're sat inside and it's miserable and grey, you feel down, depressed. But if you're outside, you feel great. You've got amazing feelings. And that's the dopamine and that's the serotonin. But what happens is that when you're exposed to blue light in isolation for longer periods of time than you're supposed to ancestrally, so from the moment you get up all the way until you go to bed, which is unnatural because blue light isn't present after sunset, the dopamine triggers are continually going off. So you're going to be impairing that receptor. So over time, you're just going to not get the same feeling of that sort of great, I'm in blue light over time. And from the serotonin side, when people have gone into lockdown, they're obviously not going to be outside as much. You know, I guess somewhere like New York would be a good example, that people probably don't have gardens or really big outside areas. Maybe they're living in apartments. And when they're in lockdown, they're stuck and confined inside without getting any, you know, natural light. And light for a window doesn't count. That's still junk light. And I can tell you why later on regards to that. So you just got to be very aware that in this new world that we're in, that you shouldn't be afraid of being outside. Like, outside's great. You know, like UV light, for instance, has been shown in multiple studies since COVID to be actually a real good preventative measure to actually getting COVID. It actually kills the virus and other flu-like viruses. Vitamin D obviously increases your immune system. It's great to be outside to get that. But going back to your original question, Krista, it's definitely a dopamine and serotonin story. And the fact that we've been confined inside means that we cannot produce serotonin in any real great quantity, which means we're going to obviously feel down and depressed. But what I'd like to caveat as well is that, you know, light is a big factor in this, as much as, you know, nutrition is a big factor in depression, much like isolation from other human beings and social circles is also a factor. Because I wouldn't, you know, it'd be wrong of me to say that, you know, blue light is the cause of your depression. It's one of the factors, along with lack of sunlight, along with maybe a crappy diet because you're feeling down and you start that vicious circle. And maybe the fact that you can't see your friends face to face is all contributing to it as well. So it's a combination of things.
Yeah. And with just a question on that. So with the light, is it that it's being consumed by our eyes, like consumed, it's like being taken in by our eyes, but also can our skin sort of detect different rays and types of light? Because I always feel like I'm wearing my blue blockers. Obviously, I wear my BLUblox, but sometimes I feel like it's also being absorbed by my skin. Is that possible?
That is a thing, definitely. Really interesting study. And I don't know if I don't think I did mention it on the first one. And even if I did, it's good to recap it. There was a study many years ago, okay, that showed, they did an experiment where they wanted to see if blue light in particular had an impact on melatonin secretion. So melatonin helps you sleep. It's the antioxidant that repairs all the damage that happens during the day. Really important hormone. And it can only be produced, we know now, in the absence of blue light. So if you're sitting watching TV in an evening, you're not going to produce anywhere near enough melatonin to get a good night's sleep and produce enough of it to repair any of the damage that's been caused during the day from things like UV light or pollution or stress or just general metabolic processes. So what they did in this study, they took a group of people and they slept them in complete darkness, measured their melatonin levels. And then the next night, they shone a blue torch on the back of their knee for about 1 to 2 minutes whilst they were sleeping, and then measured the melatonin levels. And they found a massive drop in melatonin just from shining this torch on the back of these people's knees. It was statistically significant, really interesting paper. And nothing really was done much on that for many years. And then they released a paper in very similar time, actually, to when we caught up. So it was about sort of December 2019, I think it was. And they did a test on weight loss in subjects that were exposed to sunlight. And what they found was, when they were testing this hypothesis, they found that exercising outside means more fat loss, which is great. But as a byproduct, they found that a specific frequency of light was activated by the skin, which was 480 nanometer light. And what we know about that specific frequency of light is that it is translated in the eye, that specific frequency, by something called melanopsin. And melanopsin is a blue light receptor. So by finding this sort of reaction in the skin of 480 nanometer light, they knew that melanopsin was therefore present in the skin, not just the eyes. So what was hypothesized and is now pretty much set in stone fact is that the blue light receptors that we thought were only present in the eyes are actually present in the skin, the brain, the fat tissue. They're everywhere. So you can wear blue light glasses all you want. If you're not having if you've got blue light in your environment, it's on your skin, you're still going to have an impact of reduced melatonin, increased cortisol levels where, you're going to be really stressed all the time. You won't be able to unwind. So this is why it's really important that, when you are, in an evening, for instance, say you're watching TV and you've got your blue light glasses on, that's fantastic. You're going to get a better night's sleep. Like, don't get me wrong. But if you're not wearing long clothing or covering your skin maybe with a blanket, you can even install red light bulbs if you wanted to, instead of your, horrible blue lit sort of overhead bulbs, which is really interesting. And, another thing as well with relation to the skin, and this may sort of be shifting a little bit away from your original question, but it's still interesting with the skin. The skin can't actually detect UV light, which is really interesting. And it's something I've found out since meeting you guys last. And UV light can only be detected in the body when blue light is present, okay? So where I'm going with this, when you're outside on a beautiful blue sky day, typically UV light's going to be present because there's no clouds blocking the sun. The light goes through the eyes and on the skin, and your body then goes, brilliant, there's UV light here. I actually need to protect my body against UV light. So I need to increase something called an antagonist, which is something that sort of neutralizes any of the damage caused by UV light. And that antagonist is cortisol. So when blue light is present, cortisol rises because it's a protective measure against UV light. So the problem you've got after sunset is when you turn on your TV, you open your fridge, you put on your house lights, or you look at your smartphone, that blue light then sends a message to the brain. And the brain's like, okay, number one, it's daytime. I need to be alert and active. And two, there's probably UV light present here. Let's jack up our cortisol levels and be stressed for a bit so we don't get skin cancer or any other nasties. So we're just wreaking havoc with hormones. And it's so interesting that the skin plays such a huge role in it now. And the more I go down the rabbit hole on this and the more studies that keep coming out, it becomes more and more clear and more obvious that, of course, the skin would be, an important factor with light. Like, why would it just be the eyes? If our eyes were covered or, we were blind, we would still need to function as a species. And, the backup plan there is the skin.
We need a BLUblox suit.
I know, honestly.
For watching
I think
TV.
we need a blanket.
We need a blanket,
Honestly,
baby.
it's just, as much as we try and pull apart the parts of our existence, it's always comes back. It's like, this is a full thing. This is skin, this is eyes, this is hormones, this is body. You know what I mean? We always try and okay, I'm gonna wear blue blockers for my eyes. And then the skin's also affected. It's just, as much as we as humans try and pick apart different aspects to biohack our health, we always come back to this is a full-on 360 living organism that exists in the world that needs to be taken care of as such.
I would love to talk about UV light and from the sun and the health benefits. I also briefly read just about you were talking about how to prevent a sunburn, how to kind of prepare, and as we go into the summer season here in the U.S. or in our hemisphere. I just thought that was really interesting because I feel like in the last couple of years we've kind of gotten hip to the idea that the sun is good for us, and we are no longer, putting 80 SPF all over our bodies and our face, though we are protecting in some way, shape, or form, but just understanding that there are so many benefits to sunlight. So can we just talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The sun's a really interesting one because it's so much context has to be applied to the sun, right? So the sun is like this amazing ball of energy that gives out heat. It gives out, photons and light, and pretty much all life on Earth has evolved and thrived under this ball of fire in the sky, and it's not out to kill us. Okay, so we need to get lots of those facts out. I guess just quickly on that, there are issues with the sun if your light hygiene regards artificial light isn't correct. And also if you are around a lot of man-made surfaces. And I can talk about that again in a bit. But in terms of the benefits, right? So UV light is fantastic because what it does is it synthesizes when it hits the skin with something in your body called cholesterol. Okay, so again, this is a big thing that people all over the sort of health community, the official ones, not the ones like us where we actually do the research, they say that cholesterol is really bad. When it's not, we need cholesterol in our bodies to synthesize with UV light to create vitamin D. And when you look at all the studies with vitamin D, people that have higher levels of vitamin D have lower cause or mortality. So what that means is that the higher your vitamin D level, the less chance you have of dying from anything. Okay. And we've also seen, as I mentioned earlier, there's been amazing studies coming out recently that's showing that UV light actually kills, coronaviruses, COVID-19, which again goes completely against why we put then everyone indoors when outdoors is where you can kill the virus. But that's a whole different rabbit hole to go down. UV light is also really good from a quantum point, and this one's probably going a little bit sort of deeper, and I'll just give the sort of rough guide to this, is that when have you guys heard of like grounding, like earthing, like where you just, you put your bare feet on the grass and you take in the current from the earth, and that reduces inflammation. Okay. And the reason it reduces inflammation is because it's a direct current. It's a DC electric current that runs through our bodies. And it's what our bodies were ancestrally created to absorb, because we would, as cavemen or whatever, would walk around the earth barefoot, and it was that reduced the inflammation because of the DC current. Well, it appears that when UV light passes through our eyes, it synthesizes with something called DHA, and DHA is normally found in like fish, eggs, things like that, and it's at the highest concentration in the eyes. Okay, like when you go to some cultures like Japan or China, they eat like fish eyes and like sheep eyes and things like that because it's real high concentration of nutrients. So when that UV light hits that DHA, it actually turns UV light into a DC electric current, which then reduces inflammation in the body. So when you're taking in the UV light, it's not just synthesizing vitamin D, which is fantastic. It's also reducing inflammation in the body by synthesizing with the DHA. Now, and UV gets a really bad rap, right? Because like blue light, right? Blue light is fantastic in the day because it makes us feel alert and awake. But whether blue light comes from the sun or it comes from our monitors or our lights, it still causes cellular damage. It's a really high energy light. It's going to happen. And red light is the antidote to blue light. So if you have red light, which is in the sun anyway, if you're outside, that repairs any of the cellular damage, and you're not going to, wreck your cells and cause cancers and things like that. That's why red light therapy is really important. But with UV light, it gets a really bad rap, a bit like cholesterol. Okay, so UV light does cause damage to your cells if you have too much of it. It does. There's no argument against that. Studies have shown this. But nature then has that antagonist like cortisol, which obviously repairs that damage, but also infrared light. And also a really important study that came out, albeit was in a lab using skin cells, was that they found the skin has its own circadian rhythm. And during the day, it's in this real protective mode. Okay, it's because we're active during the day, it needs to be protective. And then in the absence of blue light, they found that the skin went into this repair mode. So when we're outside getting all the benefits of UV light, but also getting the damage to our skin from UV light, ancestrally, we would have then not been exposed to blue light, which would have given the skin a chance to recover. Whereas what are we doing now after we've been out during the day? We go home and then we're shining blue light on our skin from our TVs and house lights. So our skin can't recover. So it's not the UV, it's the artificial light in the evening that's perhaps leading to these higher incidences of, sort of melanomas and skin cancers and things like that, because we're not allowing the right light conditions for us to heal the damage caused by the UV light. Now, the second part of your question about preparing your body for it. So if you wake up in a morning and you don't watch that sunrise, and at 11 a.m. in the morning, you decide, right, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to sit by the pool, go to the beach, and I'm going to sunbathe all day, or sunbake. What do you guys call it in the US? Sunbaking?
Oh, I like that. I like that better.
Yeah,
sunbathing.
Yeah.
But I like
Sunbathing.
baking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Baking. Australia say baking, but I'm British and I say sunbathing. So I don't know. Yeah, sunbathing. Let's use that one. So you go and do that, but you haven't prepared your body. Okay. So when I came on your show last, we talked about watching the sunrise, because you get certain hormone release at that time of the day, and every sort of point of the day that goes on, you get different messages from the sun that release different hormones. So what you need to do in terms of preventing sunburn is you need to build up something called melanin in your skin. Okay. So melanin is a pigment, and it gives us our natural skin color. So what melanin does is it filters UV light. So if you live like my wife, Katie, who you've met, she's from Wales. Okay. They get like one day of sunshine a year. So naturally she's like as white as a ghost. So the reason she's that pale, I'll bring her in to defend herself in a bit, but she's not anymore. And I'll tell you why. So anyway, and the reason she is very pale means that she has hardly any melanin, because she doesn't need to filter UV light, because there's none of it in Wales. You just need as much of it as you can, like sod the melanin. Whereas if you come down to Australia and look at the indigenous population here, the Aborigines, they have very dark skin. They have huge amounts of melanin in their skin. Why? Because UV light is so strong here. They need as much filtration as they can. Otherwise, they're just going to get too much UV light and probably have a life expectancy of like 15 years old. It's going to be really bad. But the good thing is you can change the melanin composition in your skin by being outside when UV light is at its lowest. So there's no UV light present at sunrise, and there's hardly any present at sunset. And that slowly then creeps up for maybe 2 or 3 hours. So if you go out in the mornings every day, maybe for half an hour, maybe an hour, and you just sort of sit outside, watch that sunrise, you're also taking in infrared light and other sources of light from the sun at that time of the day, and your melanin levels slowly and gradually increase. So you get this sort of base tan, or this sort of brown sort of complexion if you're Caucasian, and you then can build up the melanin in your skin. So when you then go outside later in the season or later in the day, you've got then this protective, almost like natural sunscreen that then filters the UV light, so you can take more of it in before you actually burn. Whereas if you do what Katie used to do when we moved to Australia, which was we used to just both of us go outside at midday and start sunbaking, we would burn. We would go from white to pink, like with no in between. So you've just got to make sure that this is why this context always applies. If I just say to people, go outside, sunbathe all day, it's totally fine, you're going to be all good, it'd be really remiss of me, because people probably would get skin cancers because they would miss the very vital part, which is you've got to build the melanin first before going out later on in the day, later on in the season. So for instance, it's winter here now. And I was outside for an hour this morning. It was pretty bloody cold, to be honest, but I was outside just taking in the sun and trying to just, keep the melanin levels high during the winter, because when spring and summer comes, I'm going to have such a good protective barrier against UV light that I can go outside for longer. I don't need to wear sunscreen then. I don't need to seek the shade as much. And it's just a much better existence, because I'm not burning, and I haven't worn sunscreen for about 5 years now, and I haven't burnt in that time. And I was in the Maldives maybe 3 years ago, and there was no remorse from the sun there, and I didn't use any sunscreen. I was just lying on the sun lounger all day reading my book and didn't burn at all, because I'd spent 6 months before I went building up my melanin and being outside and getting that protective sort of natural sunscreen.
Wow. I swear, when I used to go to the tanning bed, I built up my melanin. Because I don't really, honestly, when I was in high school, I was like, oh my gosh, it was disgusting how much I tanned. I think on prom one year, I went to 2 different tanning beds in the city or in Ohio, but I think I built up my melanin because I don't really burn anymore. I kind of burnt my back in Cabo, but I was like, I realized that, and I don't actually get as dark as I used to anymore. I kind of just keep in between a phase, whereas before I would get super dark. as I would just tan like crazy. But now I really don't get that much dark. And I've always thought that. I'm like, I think I built something up when I was going to the tanning bed all the time to like protect myself.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely would have done. They're not obviously we know they're not the healthiest things to do because it's junk light. Again, it's not sunlight, but you would have built melanin up. You would have done, and your vitamin D levels would have been high as well.
100%.
So, there is good things from it, I guess, as well.
I was trying to get some. I mean, it's pretty gray in Ohio, so I was trying to get that vitamin D. That's for sure. I loved actually when we talked about the sun hygiene conversation, our last one, but I want to talk about your setup because you have like a beautiful biohack setup. So for people that are on Zoom all day, they're on their computer, what would you suggest that their setup be like for them to feel energized, for them to feel like their space isn't sucking energy from them, but actually giving them energy?
Yeah, really good question. One I actually I did a YouTube on it actually recently, I think a few weeks ago, which was really cool, like 5 ways to biohack your workstation. And it's really important, because you're just going to have the life sucked out of you if you're just staring at a blue lit screen all day. Eventually you're just going to have enough. And it was interesting, before we got into our conversation, you were like, where's your blue light glasses? And I was like, well, I biohacked my little office here, so I don't have to personally wear them. So some of the things you can do, right, to biohack your workstation is, I think the biggest thing where I've changed my mind on it, and this was after I had a very long conversation with Dr. Jack Kruse on the subject, who's one of the leading experts in light. And, we were having a back and forward about windows. Okay, should you sit near them because you're getting natural light from them? And it was quite clear that my thoughts were, well, you're near a window, you're getting natural light in, that's going to mitigate any of the blue light damage. Whereas Jack's view on it was, when you look at a window, you're not getting sunlight in its complete natural form. It's being filtered in certain ways. So anyway, we had this conversation. I went away and did a bit more research, and I found out some work that Dr. Alexander Wunsch was doing, who is like the godfather of light. He's a German, like, sort of quantum biologist, and the guy has been doing this for 30 years, and he's doing some really crazy stuff at the moment that is going to change how we think even more about light and how it's impacting our body. And he was agreeing with Jack's side of the equation that, there's 3 types of light. There's natural light from the sunlight, which is light that hits our skin directly with no filtration. You've got artificial light from LED sources. Then you've got junk light, which is light that is impaired before it hits the body. So it comes from the sun, it's blocked by a window or it's filtered by sunscreen or something like that. That's junk light. So he was explaining to us that the fact that, you sit near a window, you're actually filtering out a lot of the beneficial frequencies of light. So when you're sitting near a window, you're blocking a lot of UVA, but you're letting in a lot of UVB. So you are getting a lot of the more volatile frequencies of UV light hit your skin, and less of the less volatile frequencies of UV light. So actually sitting away from a window is number 1 priority when you set up a workstation. Whereas before I would say sit near a window. Having said that,
right? That's the same.
Exactly the same. Yes. Whenever you drive your car, always have the window open a little bit. Doesn't have to be right down, just a little crack to let natural light in. So that's a good hack, really good point. And the same is true if you sit near a window. So for instance, my window is just there, but it's open. So I haven't got, I'm sat near a window, but it's open. So I've got natural light coming into me. You can probably see it's hitting against my skin here. It's like really light. So that's a big thing that people can do. You need to be able to reduce the blue light that's emitted from your screens. So if you're working during the day, you still want some blue light emitted from your screens, okay, but not as much of it. And these days you can just go to your settings, go to display, and you can put it on night shift mode and just have that on during the day. And that will reduce down the blue light. And that's a free thing people can do, same as opening a window. Another good thing is you want to balance the light. So as I mentioned earlier briefly, blue light's good during the day. Too much of it's going to cause too much cellular damage. What repairs it? Red light. So you need to have some sort of red light source near your workstation. A salt lamp's pretty cool to use. You could have a red light therapy device if you wanted, but you probably wouldn't need that in its entirety for that purpose. Maybe a salt lamp, maybe even like a lamp with a red light bulb in it would be really good. Another really good thing to do is ensure that you're getting natural light breaks as well. So don't just, we know this from a health and safety perspective, in many corporations, you wouldn't just sort of sit at your screen all day. They say, take a break every sort of hour for 5 minutes, look away from the screen, focus on something in the distance, but take it one step further, get outside, in the morning, go for 5 minutes outside, just so your eyes can see natural light in its purest form. Eat your lunch outside, go outside in the afternoon and get some light as well, is really good. And also, it's not light related, but keeping hydrated. Blue light actually takes a lot of the moisture from your skin, which is why blue light actually accelerates aging. Red light does the opposite, it puts moisture back in the skin. So if you've got the red light next to your computer, that's great as well, but keep hydrated because you're going to lose a lot of moisture from your skin. That will dry up and you'll age quicker that way when you're exposed to blue light in isolation. And, if there are other ambience, after you say you've done all of that, and there's other ambient sources of blue light around. So for instance, maybe some lights are on somewhere, maybe, there's appliances with LEDs. You can wear the blue light filtering glasses as well, which are the clear lenses or the yellow lenses that you can wear during the day too, to kind of mitigate any of the other ambient sources of blue light that are around. I'm always one that, if I'm working for long periods on a computer, yes, I've got my biohacked workstation as described, but I'll also wear the blue light glasses as well. It's almost that sort of double whammy, just double edge protection. But if I'm on maybe for like half an hour only in a day, like we are now, then I think it's enough, like just with the setup that we've got. But yeah, if I'm on for any more than an hour, then yeah, the blue light glasses are going on. Otherwise, even with that setup, my eyes are starting to hurt a lot more. So yeah, that's probably a few good tips to get people started, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's like signifies work time for me whenever I put my blue light blockers on. I have night shift on my phone, and I would post pictures, and I looked at the pictures on my friend's phone who has the bluest phone, our friend Danielle. And I was like, first of all, you need night shift. Your phone is so blue, it's hurting my feelings. It's literally so blue. But I looked at my photos on her phone, and they looked 100% different. Like the filters that I was using were completely skewed because I was in like the yellowest night shift mode. So I was like, what are these photos? I look literally insane. But I keep my phone on pretty much night shift all the time. And then I also have flux on my computer, which helps with like sort of the colors as well, which I like. But the light thing is fascinating. I knew that about the car, and I didn't necessarily understand why the light through the light windows of the car was even more damaging than just normal light. And that's really helpful because it separates the UVA and UVB, which is damaging.
Yeah, exactly that. And, another thing that I've been on sort of on the fence about for a long time, and again, context needs to be applied, is sunglasses. So it's a really interesting one, right? So naturally, ancestrally, we wouldn't have worn sunglasses. But do we live in an environment now where we are in the same environment as our ancestors? No, we're not. And when you actually start to look at some of the evidence out there, what has become pretty clear is that something called glare, which we're all aware of, is actually an intensification of UV light. And it almost simulates that we are living at a higher altitude by having this amount of glare pass through our eyes. And when you're at higher altitudes, the UV light obviously increases the higher you go, as you're getting closer to the sun. And that actually increases risk of, sort of permanent eye damage like cataracts, but also just sort of general eye pain as well, even though it's temporary. So when you actually start looking at this, there is actually a thing out there. This is a thing. It's been studied. And when you have glare, say, off a building or off the back of a car or off snow, for instance, that's another big one, which is a natural source. That light is, sort of 10 to 100 times more intense, the UV, than what you would be getting if it was just direct sunlight onto your skin and through your eyes. So it becomes quite clear that sunglasses do play a little bit of a role in protecting your eyes when you're in a man-made environment, or if you're in, a snowy environment like skiers wear goggles, for instance. So, you don't want to be wearing sunglasses in the morning or the evening, because you want that UV light to come through your eyes. You want that sort of circadian entrainment. You want the UV light to give you the DC electric current. But if you're in an area of high glare, and during a high UV period, so between 11 and 3 p.m., you want to be considering probably looking at some sort of UV protection, because that intensification of UV off those man-made surfaces could actually be, contributing to something a little bit nasty down the line. And this is where sort of biohacking comes into, its own, because we can't physically get back to how we were ancestrally. The earth has changed. Even if you lived in a field in the middle of nowhere, you're still going to get pollutants or X, Y, and Z, or EMFs like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. It's still going to come through. So we've actually got to biohack our lives. And one thing, I was just sort of completely against sunglasses until I started to research. And this is what what a lot of our community like about BLUblox and myself in particular, that we're not a zealot in one particular thing. We're not like, sunglasses are bad, I don't care about that evidence. Cognitive dissonance comes in and we're just like, park that. We just want evidence that shows that we were right. I was wrong about sunglasses. I think that, I was right in so much that you need to let natural light in your eyes in the mornings and evenings, and a little bit during the middle of the day as well, to entrain your circadian rhythm. That's fine. But because we're in this man-made environment with all these sources of glare, if we're not wearing sunglasses during that time, we're going to have severe damage to our eyes over a long time. And specifically when you have mutant eyes like myself, which are blue, we have less melanin in our eyes because they're blue. The browner, darker your eyes are, the more melanin you have, the more UV light you can handle for your eyes. But a Caucasian blue-eyed boy like myself in Australia with glare, like, I'm asking for trouble if I'm not wearing sunnies for at least 2 or 3 hours during the height of the day when I'm in an area of high glare.
Weather is getting warmer, and I gotta say, like, one of the last things I want to do in the summer is like be hot in my kitchen cooking. So I really want to just, be smart about my time in the kitchen, make it easy, make it healthy. And with Daily Harvest, I am doing just that. So I get deliveries from Daily Harvest about every 2 weeks. I get my harvest bowls, flatbreads, smoothies, and they even have these really delicious bites that I have for dessert. I'll tell you about in a moment. But Daily Harvest is just an incredible food delivery service. They basically freeze these meals at peak freshness. They use the best fruits and vegetables. They don't use preservatives or added sugar or artificial anything. And these meals are just the most delicious ever. And you can make any of these in less than 5 minutes. I am not joking. I have tested it and I'm just so happy. So the harvest bowls, I love the cauliflower pesto, the flatbreads, you guys, these flatbreads, you just put it in the oven for just a short bit on like 450 degrees and so freaking delicious. I love the kale and sweet potato flatbread. As far as smoothies go, I love the mint and cacao. And then the bites that I mentioned, you guys, the cacao nib and vanilla bites, come on. All of these things live in your freezer, so you're not wasting food like you normally do. Does anyone relate? So I want you to try, especially this summer. Let's get it going. You can go to dailyharvest.com and enter the code almost30 to get $25 off your first box. Major, dailyharvest.com. Enter the code almost30 at checkout to get $25 off your first box. I want you to tell me how you're liking it. Let me know what your favorites are and enjoy. I am an adult and I care about my laundry detergent and dishwasher detergent. Okay, let's get hip to the fact that we must be caring about our impact on Earth, whether it's on our own bodies, but also on the environment. So when we found Drops, DROPPS, we were like, yes, done. Okay, we got to share this with Almost 30 Nation. They have eco-friendly cleaning solutions and eco-responsible packaging. So these are really powerful formulas that contain plant-based ingredients. There's no measure or no mess, no spills at all. They come in these little pods, and they have cleaning solutions for every need. So if you have sensitive skin, maybe you have a baby, maybe you have really stinky and dirty laundry, they can help you out. So I really love the Oxy Booster Pods, which are chlorine-free and color-safe bleach alternatives. I also love the dishwasher detergent in lemon, and it is cheap. You guys, this is so freaking affordable. I was like, wait, are you serious? Not only are the pods so powerful, but they are good for the environment, good for you, and they are affordable. Okay, and we have a discount. Does it get any better? You can go to drops.com and use the code almost30 for 25% off your first purchase. That's DROPPS.com. Use the code almost30 and you'll get 25% off. Enjoy. 3 words, supplements in chocolate, okay? FX Chocolate is a new supplement company that welcomes you to a world where health doesn't have to be hard, okay? I was like taking some supplements the other day in pill form, and I was like, wait, what? Why is this so hard? FX Chocolate has completely changed the game. I feel like they're paving the way, and they take powerful nutraceuticals like reishi, ashwagandha, CBD, phytonutrients, and more, and delivers them to you in a delicious square of sugar-free, keto-friendly dark chocolate. It's delicious. It's good for you. It doesn't give me that sugar crash or anything like that. And they have formulas for all different needs and times of day. So they have a focus blend that I really, really love that has Nuganda in it, which is a next generation ashwagandha extract. And it really is a powerful cognitive nootropic. So I really love that one. I also really love the Zen formula. So this has hemp in it, and it contains a broad spectrum hemp oil, which is THC free. So you can enjoy it at any time, and it's super smooth, tastes delicious, and they have so many different formulas. Check it out, you guys. Almost 30 Nation has spoken. I've talked to a lot of you that are like, FX Chocolate, what? Thank you for introducing us. It's delicious. Krista and I are obsessed. We have it at all times of the day. So you can go to fxchocolate.com, use the code almost30 for 20% off. I would stock up. That's fxchocolate.com. Use the code almost30 for 20% off. I always wonder, like, how does my favorite restaurants make the best food, and then when I try to make it at home, it's not the same? And I realized it's because I didn't have professional quality cookware, okay? It's really, really important. So when we found Made In, I was pumped because their cookware and kitchenware products are used by thousands of the world's best chefs. This is how they do it, and I love it. I've tried it, and their pots and pans, knives, wine glasses, you name it, are just the best. So well crafted. And I just feel like an adult, you know. I just got the white wine glasses, and I had people over the other night. We had a bottle of Chardonnay, and you guys, the quality of these wine glasses, you can just tell it's the best. I love the shape, the style, so good. And then I got the stainless clad saute pan. So this is really great because I am using this for, I'm using it to like sear meats. I'm using it for sauteing vegetables, braising, sauce-based dishes. It's deep. It's so easy to clean. I love it so much. So try out Made In. They know what they're doing, and chefs all over the world trust them too. So for our listeners, as always, you know we got you. Like, why are you even doubting it. Right now, Maiden is offering our listeners 15% off your first order with promo code almost30. This is the best discount available anywhere online for Maiden products. So go to madeincookware.com. That's MADEINCOOKWARE.com. Use the code almost30 for 15% off your first order. I find myself recommending lube more than I ever thought I would. And that's because we found Woo More Play a couple years ago. And trust me, when you find organic, good for you lube, you will not let it go and you will buy in bulk. Woo More Play is a sex product and toy company that truly cares about you, your body, and your pleasure. And the coconut love oil is a cult favorite, and it is made with the most clean and delicious ingredients like coconut oil, vanilla essence, stevia, beeswax. This is good for your body. I have no problem putting it in sensitive areas, you know what I mean? And it works so well. Like literally, I feel dramatic, but it truly has dramatically changed my experience, whether it's like pleasure with myself or with my partner. So I highly recommend the coconut love oil. They also have on-the-go packets of it. Those are the quickies. And then they have these freshies, which are like these disposable wipes, on-the-go wipes that are made with natural ingredients. They smell amazing. They can easily fit in your traveler, whatever. And I bring them everywhere I go, quite literally, for before or after sex, or just, to freshen up. Check out their products. I am obsessed with Woo More Play. I tell everyone about them. And we have a discount. You know us. Head over to woomoreplay.com and use the code almost30 for 20% off your order of Woo Vibes, their vibrator, or the coconut love oil, freshies, quickies, all that you want. So woomoreplay.com. Use the code almost30 and you'll get 20% off. Trust me, buy in bulk. I want to touch back on the red light. I know we talked about it in our first interview, but I think it deserves a bit of a review because I always find this so fascinating. And I know you have a new device out, so I kind of want to talk about that and the daily use of that. So how does red light combat our exposure to blue light, and what is actually happening to the cells?
Okay, right. So what it does is it basically restores cellular damage caused by blue light in a nutshell. And it's about to get a bit complex here, okay? So I'm going to try and make it as simple as I can because it's quite complex at a cellular level what happens. So ultimately what happens is red light... I don't know how to make this as simple as possible, but we produce energy.
Make it okay,
we produce
our blonde hair gives it away.
I didn't mean it like that. I meant as in like it's like I need to be able to explain this simply without going too deep. But anyway, what happens is in our body we have something called electron chain transport. Okay, and this is how we produce something called adenosine triphosphate. Okay, which is ATP, which is our energy. So it's the process by which food, water, sunlight goes into this chain transport system. And then at the end of it, it spits out energy and we can move, okay? And we can run metabolic processes. The more of that we have, the more efficient the process is in our body. So it's almost like the more energy you put into something, the better the result's going to be, the better the end result, and the more energy there is to go round to do what there is to do. So if you're like, say, tidying your house and you're completely hungover in the morning, it's going to be a pretty shitty job. Let's be honest. It's not going to be that great. You probably do half of it and then you sit down and just like go to sleep. Whereas if you're really refreshed, you're full of energy and you're like, right, I'm going to clean this whole house. And you're there for 8 hours and it looks absolutely immaculate at the end of the day. So it's that kind of system. So what happens, there's at the fourth phase, okay, there's something called cytochrome C oxidase, okay? And that is a very specific molecule that then reacts with oxygen and then produces ATP. So what happens is that we build up inflammation in our body and we produce something called nitric oxide. And what happens is oxygen is taken away from cytochrome C oxidase because it needs to neutralize nitric acid. So there's less oxygen to react with cytochrome C oxidase. So we produce less energy because we're inflamed, EMFs, pollution, general metabolic processes, stress, shitty food, whatever it may be. So what happens is what red light does is it appears that 660 nanometer red light and 850 nanometer infrared light, those specific frequencies of light, they go, when they're put into, shone on your body, they actually take the place of oxygen and they react with nitric oxide. So they reduce the inflammation by neutralizing nitric oxide, which means there is more oxygen left to then react with cytochrome C oxidase and produce more energy. So if you shine your red light therapy device on your face, you're going to produce more ATP in that area. So there'll be less inflammation because the red light will reduce the nitric oxide. More energy will be present, which then boosts collagen, reduces wrinkles, causes cellular repair to happen because there's more energy to go around. It's a more efficient system. If you then shine it on your sore leg muscle after doing 100 squats in the gym, the infrared light will do the same thing. There'll be more energy in that area. So it will go, okay, where do I need to put this energy? Okay, I need to put it into this sore muscle because it's aching and we need to repair it. Whereas before, without red light, you're not producing optimal amounts of energy because we're getting so much inflammation in our modern world that the oxygen has to be used to get rid of that first before the energy is produced. So that's ultimately how red light therapy works.
Is the oxygen is ingested oxygen that we breathe in? Is that the type of oxygen?
It's both. It's from the air we're breathing in. It can also come from the food we're eating when it's broken down, and also water. So like H2O, it takes it from the water as well.
And then there's also nitric oxide supplements as well too, right? That help with cellular, where people can take them as supplements, correct?
You can, yeah. It's slightly different how that's put together. I mean, I'm not a supplement expert. I just know that the excess in the body, in that specific ATP chain transport is what's taking away from the energy production. But yeah, you can actually take nitric oxide supplements. Typically before a workout, it's pretty good from what I've heard to do, because it just gives you that sort of boost and in you go. So yeah, I guess you can take supplements as well. I mean, I'm pretty anti-supplements myself, unless you really need them.
Like there's a pill for that, Andy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I've heard of those supplements as well, but I've been using red light for a year or so now, and I feel like it's one of my favorite things I've ever done. I definitely notice on my skin. My skin is like better than ever just from using the red light and from being really consistent with it. Do you know if there's any effects of the red light on your eyes and your vision? I'm always curious about how the red light hitting your eyes affects it. And personally, I think it's actually positive to kind of counterbalance all the blue light. But have you heard or read any research on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's twofold. So visible red, I take it you were asking the question about, but I will also talk about the infrared side because it's in red light therapy as well. So from a red light standpoint, again, context. So generally speaking, no, you're not going to have any issues. Red light is restorative, doesn't cause any damage. However, some devices that are out there focus on something called irradiance. So it's the intensity of the red light. And a lot of brands out there like to focus on having the most intense light possible because it shortens the treatment time with red light. So the higher the irradiance, the less you need of it. So you're not there for like 4 hours, with a really low irradiance device. But on the other side of the coin is that because it's so intense and so strong, it could strain your eyes. I remember when I was testing our devices, I went really high on the irradiance to start with. And myself and Katie tested this device. We put it on our face. We looked at it. And then for about 20 minutes afterwards, we were just seeing red dots everywhere for like ages. It was so bad. So we reduced the irradiance down to a point where we weren't seeing those dots, because that can't be good, right? On the flip side, infrared light at 850 nanometers is damaging to the eyes. So you would need to wear goggles ideally when utilizing that frequency of light, or at least not look directly at it. So don't stare right at it, so you've got to be careful with that. And a lot of brands won't mention that because obviously it would scare people, but it's absolutely amazing for you when it's on your skin. It's just the eyes on that invisible frequency that can cause some damage. So goggles are best worn when you're utilizing the invisible frequencies. And if you've got a red light device that has really higher radiance, you'll know because you'll start seeing stars. You don't want to be looking directly at that, in my opinion, as well. I think you should probably close your eyes or at least look away from it a little bit.
Staring into it's kind of a funny.
I always love to stare into it.
Yeah, just like pass out.
I'm like, do it.
Yeah, burn me.
Get in there.
I would love
mesmerized.
So we talked about what exactly it is and how it works, and I feel like I know the benefits so well because every time I do something regularly, I look up the benefits regularly to remind myself why. Mm-hmm. Like if I eat a salad, I'm like, what is the benefits of kale? Can you tell us a little bit more about the benefits of red light therapy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting one, red light therapy, because unlike blue light, there's studies on blue light, lots of them, but there's so many on red light, and specifically the frequencies that I've mentioned, 660 and 850. There's 4,000 peer-reviewed studies on red light and its benefits, and there's 400 double-blind, placebo, gold standard, A-star sort of studies that are the best in class. And I mean, I could list so many things here, right? So from a facial standpoint, like skin conditions like eczema, acne, you can have things like fine line wrinkles can be reduced. You can also increase collagen. That's a big one. Katie uses it all the time, every evening on her face, hoping her lips will plump up naturally. So I think they are, but she loves doing that. What else is in there from a and that's all what red light does, okay? Because visible red light only penetrates skin deep, whereas the infrared light's used to go deeper into the tissue, so more into the muscles and bones. So infrared light is fantastic for things like if you've got like joint issues like arthritis. It's great for, DOMs if you're having a big gym session, or if you've run a marathon, you're exhausted, you can have some recovery there. And you can see that a lot of sports teams now have like red light therapy rooms that they're going into just to recover afterwards. And we're doing some work with the Canadian Olympic team where they're utilizing our products for just to give them the cutting edge as well, which is really interesting. There's fat loss is a huge one as well. There was a really interesting study, and I can send this to you if you want to have a look at it. They did a treadmill test. So they took some participants and had them run on a treadmill, and then they obviously split the group, and the other half ran on the treadmill with red light therapy shining at them. And they found that the ones that did the same amount of cardio exercise but had the red light on lost about 47% more fat during the course of this study just by having the red light shining on them. And that is, it's an obvious answer when you look at that other study that I was talking to you about earlier, which was fat loss increases when you exercise in sunlight, and what's present in sunlight, infrared light. So, the light you're exercising under can accelerate your, aesthetic goals for what you want to do. Muscle building. It's fantastic for that because there was a really interesting study that Ben Greenfield did, actually. I think he was shining red light on his testicles for like 6 weeks and then was measuring his testosterone levels, and they were just going up and up by shining red light down there. So, if you're a guy or
that in the book. I read his book in that chapter.
Yeah.
I was like, it was like so his voice. Yes. I was like, he does write these books. Yeah. It was like, I shined it on my junk and like I was rock hard. It was unbelievable. But I was like, oh, that's that makes sense how it increases, because the blue light decreases testosterone. So it makes sense that there'd be something to counteract and increase your testosterone.
Would you have to shine it on the junk, or could you shine it anywhere and increase testosterone?
I think personally it would have to be down there because it's spot treatment with red light. You want more ATP in that sort of area, more
Got
energy
it.
down there, I
That's
guess.
what he did. All right.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right.
So yeah,
Passing it on. Passing it on.
yeah, exactly. Not done it myself yet, but
Come on,
maybe
Andy.
one day.
That's amazing. Yeah. So
Too funny.
inflammation, fat loss,
Yeah.
fine lines, wrinkles, collagen production. It also can help your thyroid, right? Just like if you have thyroid
Yes.
health, putting it on your thyroid.
Huge jump. The most studied, actually. So really good catch there. It's the most studied one. So we know that blue light can affect the thyroid, hence why we should be wearing a scarf or protecting the thyroid against blue light. There was a study in Japan that showed that there was a lot of cellular damage from blue light that was causing issues in thyroid in women mainly, which was really interesting. We don't know why. From a sort of study standpoint, but it seems to affect women a lot. So what red light does is obviously it recovers, restores, and just causes, when, like, I guess how I explained red light to you guys, putting more energy, more efficient energy into the system, your hormone regulator, specifically for women in the thyroid, if you're putting more energy and making it more efficient, just think of the efficient amount of an optimal amount of hormones that you're going to be producing. So you're just going to be really balanced and feel great. And yeah, there's been so many of those gold standard studies done on the thyroid and red light. And, what's 10 minutes a day with a red light device just sort of pointing there? It's, we stand for 8 hours a day with our phone in that position. So why not just add, a red light there for 10 minutes? So yeah, that's a huge, huge one.
Yeah, that's so true.
As you're saying this, I'm just wondering why aren't like recovery rooms and hospitals red light? Why aren't like do you know what I'm saying? Like, if
Nothing makes sense.
knowing that this works, why the hell not? Why the hell not?
Yeah.
Wouldn't we put our patients, people in doctors' offices, in a room with red light? I can imagine that there might be some things with other people adjusting to doing their work under these certain lights, but we've adjusted to this artificial crap light above us. So I think we can adjust to this other light. And I'm also thinking about people in offices in general, and why aren't, I know people have gotten their blue light glasses, etc., but why aren't bigger institutions being like, hey, so most of our workforce is in an office. How can we optimize this experience so that like their brain is functioning at optimal levels? They're resting optimally. They are, their mood is up. So it's pretty wild to me that this isn't kind of mainstream yet. And I hope that you will be the one to just bring it to all these places, because
I know.
It just seems like a no-brainer, and I'm confused as to why it's not, a part of it.
Yeah, it's tough. And I find that the more, the likes of us three research things a lot more, the more we become detached from, the status quo out there. And I think that, it's hard to do, but you have to pull back and realize that majority of the population don't seek out they don't have the thirst for new knowledge and working things out themselves. They like to just be told, this is what it is. You don't need to worry about this. You need to eat this. You need to supplement on this, etc. And I think people just generally don't know about it. And I think that when it goes to a certain level, I don't want to get into bashing big pharma and things like that, but it gets to that certain level, and they're like, well, we can sell a red light therapy device for $1,500 to someone, which will probably help them with their arthritis for the rest of their life. Or we could sell them a pill that's going to get us 15 grand or 150 grand for the rest of their life. It becomes, I think, in a capitalist economy, it doesn't make sense to have something that isn't going to yield more net profit in the long run. And I think that that's what's holding us back as a civilization when it comes to healthcare in particular. And a lot of us sort of, I guess, moving forward, capitalism's been fantastic for a lot of growth and technology and things like that. Don't get me wrong. But I think from a healthcare perspective and wellness perspective, if it doesn't, work from a capitalist perspective, then, people will look at it from more of a business perspective rather than, right, how do we get people well? It's more a case of, well, how do we get them to stay alive for so long that we can make money out of them, but giving them a good quality of life or an okay quality of life whilst taking X supplement. And it's harsh to say, and I wish we didn't live in a world like that, but it's fact of the matter. And this is the thing with BLUblox is so much that we don't have huge amounts of repeat customers, because people come to us and they buy the product, and the product is such good quality that it's going to last them for the rest of their lives. And we know that. And that's why it's important that we go and educate and tell everyone about this, because you want everyone in the world to wear this product. Not to sort of gloss things over, we need to make a profit to be in business, to be able to educate, but we're not doing it in such a way that we're like, right, how do we make these glasses break in 3 months so someone has to come out and buy one? How do we give them a red light therapy device that it will last 6 months, then they're going to have to buy another one? We don't think like that. It's more like, once we've got someone as one of our amazing customers, they've got that product for life, they've got the support from us for life, and we want to be number one to make people healthy. Whereas the general capitalist world, where they're just like, right, how do I become a billionaire? It's more a case of, when you look at it from an economic standpoint, you take people's health out of the equation, and you're just like, well, how do I maximize profits? And I think that is the reason why we're not seeing it in hospitals or institutions or office environments, because it's just not going to make the shareholders as much money as they want, unfortunately.
Yeah, think about if that was like a pharmaceutical, if that was the goal. It's like 1 million people saved, or like 1 million people are well because of us, instead of like $15 billion made this year. I mean, if you want to have an interesting time, you can see the numbers on Big Pharma over in 2020 and 2021 after everything with COVID. It's very interesting to see how money is being transferred, and that's like one of the places. But and it's interesting too with capitalism. It's like, when capitalism is corrupt capitalism, it works in the way that we have it now, where there is so much power and money in places that are damaging to people's health, lives, and health, life, and well-being. But capitalism as a structure isn't necessarily the corrupt. It's like the way in which we engage with capitalism. But yeah, I mean, we could go on forever about that. I think even for Lindsey and I, as like guides and leaders, through of the podcast, it's like we've always wanted people to join us on the journey in their conscious evolution, but we've never wanted them to feel like they're reliant on us and they need us for anything in their life. It's really empowering them to find their own answers, their own path, their own solution. And that's not as profitable right now as like the guru path, to be like, I am the guru. We have all the answers. We have everything. But it feels like the most aligned.
Mm-hmm. And I just love, you started off this conversation by just sharing your own research, and we forget that like we can do our own research. Sometimes it feels daunting to look up studies or go to trusted resources to learn ourselves, rather than just kind of find out on Twitter or Instagram or what have you. So that was really inspiring to me to hear you say that. When people are doing their own research, last question for me, are you looking in specific places? How are you vetting this information so that you know that you are getting real information?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the big thing for me is that personally, I will only look at peer-reviewed studies. So studies that have been done in, laboratories by PhDs, by doctors, and they've then been validated. The big thing as well is, and I see it so much now, unfortunately, because people want clicks on their articles, whether they're peer-reviewed or not, they want clicks. Clicks brings advertising, brings data, and in a capitalist world, that's king. And what you find is some of the titles are misleading, or they'll put a title in saying, like sunlight causes cancer, and then they put something in the sort of blurb at the top saying, be careful of sunlight. We've known this all this time, but it causes skin cancer. And then you read the study, and it's nothing about that whatsoever. So you've really got to, unfortunately, not rely on titles of studies. Read them and go, is this saying what it's saying? There was one, I can't remember it off the top of my head now. There was one about COVID or something came out, and they were saying that, there was some sort of issue with people that had COVID, then had, that was it. They said people who get COVID are 90% more likely to have neurological episodes later on in life. And that was the title. So anyone reading that's like, shit, I don't want to get COVID. I don't want to, have neurological issues later on in life. I read the study. Yeah, exactly. So I read the study, and the study was basically saying that people who have pre-existing neurological conditions that get COVID will have a 90% greater chance of having intensified neurological episodes later on in life. So they're already sick, and getting COVID obviously is going to intensify that sort of situation in them. And then they're going to maybe have some issues later on in life. And then when you look at it even more, they were saying that the percentage of the population that had these neurological conditions was something like 0.2% or something like that. So it was just so misleading. It was so frustrating. I had to leave a comment on it, and people were commenting back going, yeah, brilliant, glad you said this. And it's just so bad because it's just fear mongering, and you've got to do it in light as well. And any research you do, you've got to read not only the studies that support your ideas, but you've got to read the studies that go against it as well. You need to read at least 4 or 5 in each camp, and then come to your own conclusion then. And to be honest, it's difficult to do. I find it difficult. It takes me weeks to research these kind of things. And I think this is why it's important that, if you want to do it yourself, fantastic. I think it's great. And I think people should, and people should be empowered to make those decisions. But I also understand that some people won't have the time or energy, or maybe sometimes the expertise to be able to pick apart some of these studies and come to these conclusions themselves. And this is why podcasts like yours are so important, because you bring guests on that have done this hard work and research. You vet these guests to know that they're not going to come on and just give a load of BS. They've actually done the research. So people then can go, oh, okay, well, I liked what Andy said about the melanin. I'm going to just go and research that a bit more. Maybe I'm going to message him and find out some more about that. Or maybe I don't agree with what he's saying about, red light therapy on the thyroid. I'm going to send him a study, or, I'm going to go and research this a bit more because he's saying one thing and I think the other. And I think that even when you hear something that is against your beliefs, you should embrace it, and you should really go, well, why is this person thinking this way? What's the evidence? Can you send it to me? Can I go and research it? Can I look at this? Can my viewpoint change? And, as I mentioned twice on this show, my viewpoints changed twice on sunglasses and sitting by a window in the space of a year, because 2 other people have come to me and said, you're wrong. And, a lot of people will go, no, I'm not wrong. I'm correct. Like, you're wrong. And it's like, that's not the right question to ask. I was like, why do you think I'm wrong? Why do you believe that? And when they explained it to me, and I went away and did the research, and I asked another person about it, I was like, yeah, you're right. I really appreciate you enlightening me to that and empowering me with that kind of knowledge to go away and look at that specific area of light, and then recalibrate my thoughts on that and form a new opinion, and then go out and do a YouTube video on it and tell my followers that, this is change, and I'm sorry, I got it wrong, but this evidence is here and you need to now do this. So never be afraid to change your mind as well. And I think you've got to do it with, we do it with diet. Like, you might follow like a carnivore diet, and then know that 2 years down the line, you're like, well, I've researched that and that's actually really bad for me. It might be a paleo diet, a vegan diet, whatever it may be. You may then come into new information that's like, well, actually, that's not right for me. I need to eat this way. I need to exercise this way. So it's just knowing that when you get an answer as well, don't think it's the be all and end all. No, don't stop this childlike curiosity. Keep looking into things more, and you'll just evolve more and more as you age. So I think it's just very important to keep that open mind, and and research heavily where you can, both sides.
Yeah, I love that. Also, I think it's just looking at who funds studies. A lot of times pharma, dairy industries, food industries, factory farming industries will fund studies, and they'll almost do it underneath. They'll create a study organization or pseudonym for a study organization. So it'll be funded by the dairy industry, as an example, like when they talked about how chocolate milk after a workout is like really great for you. They'll create like a different name to run the business study under, so that if people look at it, it looks like it's from like an independent organization, when really it's like funded by these specific organizations like pharma, dairy, whatever, that have an agenda behind them that will essentially do or alter studies in specific ways until they get the answer or the solution that they're looking for. So I think that's also something too, that when we look at any articles or facts or research like factcheck.org, anything like that, we have to look at who's actually funding these and what kind of agenda they have and where do they want to keep and maintain their current power.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you guys seen that Seaspiracy program on Netflix?
I didn't. I've seen I've been plant-based for a long time and I've seen tons of those, and I kind of know what's going on. Not that I know everything, but I understand the gist and I act accordingly. So I was kind of like, I'm kind of good on that.
I also don't know. I think maybe I'm just like a skeptic a little bit with, I want to find a documentary that's not on like a major platform. Does that make sense? I don't know what that means. I just like, I don't know. It seems I'm turned off sometimes by mainstream platforms like a Netflix kind of riding that wave and riding the emotion of people. I don't know. I'm sure it's great, but
I think it's I agree. I think regardless of what a documentary is saying, whether it's pro fishing, anti-fishing, pro vegan, anti-vegan, pro carnivore, anti-carnivore, what's the documentary doing? It's presenting all the evidence that supports their beliefs, and there's none of the flip side. So, you know, I want the day where there's like the both sides of the coin, and we can there's not an agenda. But I did watch it, and sort of just relating to what you said, Krista, about people funding studies. It was brought to light in this program that the sustainable fishing badge that you can put on, say, your tuna, was actually, the organization was actually funded by the sort of World Fishery sort of board that actually was pro going out there and just fishing. And the process of getting the badge was basically just like put in an application, just say you're sustainable, and then bang, you get the sustainable fishing badge. So it's just that, you just got to be careful. Hey, like, it's just awful. And really bad. And like you were saying with studies, it's the same thing. It's like there's so many agendas out there, and money making things, that even studies can be flawed now by who's funding them. And it's almost like if you're reading a study on sugar funded by the Sugar Corporation, it's just, you don't even read it, just tear it up, throw it in the bin, and find one that's independent, because you'll just be wasting your time. A bit like the documentary, you're not missing anything watching it, because it's a one-sided argument on something that we can make our own informed decision about by doing our own research, and coming to those conclusions.
Just as a last thing on that, I do feel like when we are presented with information that is in things like Seaspiracy and Earthlings or other type of like Food Inc., it's like we are so scared that we could have been contributing to that for so long that we often are like completely like disregarding. We're like, no, this is not true. I want to find information to help me feel better because I've been participating in what I now understand to be horrifying. But a lot of it, again, is we're participating in under the guise of there are things in place like that organization that are also helping us and helping the cause, so that we're not contributing to it. That's what our hope is, when we're buying things that have those type of seals or whatever. Oh my gosh, we went down quite the rabbit hole. I would love to just end and talk a little bit about your new red light therapy devices. I'm so excited to get mine. I cannot wait. It's honestly one of my favorite things. So I'd love to tell our listeners a little bit about that, because they're obviously huge fans of BLUblox already. I'm wearing the Magnums. You're wearing...
I'm wearing the Aero Summer Glows. They're my favorite.
Yeah, they're the best.
Love
and
them.
then I wear my mask every night when I travel.
I have to say the Remedy sleep mask. So I don't have blackout curtains yet in my new apartment. It has saved me. Sean laughs because I have I cannot sleep without the mask. It's been so helpful to get my full night's rest.
That's amazing to hear. We actually have 3 new ones coming out in July. Actually, probably more August, actually. And we've gone full organic cotton on those as well. And we've got a pink one, we've got a blue one, a grey one coming out. So yeah, and they're going to be like lighter versions, so not as heavy. I quite like the heavy one because the pressure it puts, but some people want. Yeah, exactly. Weighted ones.
Weighted everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. So yeah, we've got those coming out. But yeah, the red light therapy. So we started with just a handheld device, which we reverse engineered to remove all flicker and all EMF. So we've had that independently tested, and that's all come back brilliant.
Wow.
So
worried about that.
Yeah, absolutely zero EMF when it was tested. So we got Alex Fergus to test it in New Zealand, and he's like this staunch biohacker, and he's tested like Infrared, Juve, BLUblox, Genbered, like all the big brands, and he was just shocked with ours coming back with zero EMF. So that is huge. So that was really good. And then we just made sure that the intensity of it wasn't too high, so it's not going to damage the eyes on the red light side of things. Treatment time we got down to 10 minutes. We could have had it at 2 minutes, but you would have been blind afterwards. And then infrared light at 850 nanometers is in there as well, and it's got a little stand, so you can put it on. It's handheld. It's beautiful. And then we got two others as well. We've got and that's called Hive. Okay, so because it looks like a sort of beehive. It's really cool. And then we've got Hive Demi, which is like a half body panel, and it comes already built into this stand, and you can move it around. And again, it's the low EMF, the no flicker. This one isn't battery powered. You plug it into the mains, but there's no flicker on there. Flicker's really bad because it causes eye damage over time, and pretty much every red light therapy device flickers because they don't put the AC and DC current converter within their switchboard within the red light therapy device. It's the same technology we used in our red light bulbs, our Lumi bulbs. So you're not going to get any flicker in Hive. And then we've also got the full body panel as well, which is like, hang it on the back of your door, and you can get all the benefits all over your body. And you can do a Ben Greenfield with that if you want as well, and get naked and get in front of it, or whatever floats your boat.
They're going to put their balls on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if someone puts their balls on it and then messages me wanting to return it, the answer is no. I don't want it back. Keep it.
Looking for that boost, baby.
Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, so again, like with all our products, reverse engineered. We've looked at what's on the market, and again, like the blue light glasses, we weren't happy with what was on the market because yes, there was in red light therapy, the brands out there amazing. They've got the 660, they've got the 850, they've got good intensity, but you got EMF pumping out of them, and you've got flicker. Just like if you film all these devices in slow mo, just pulsing out flicker, which is just real bad for you long term neurologically. So we've reverse engineered all that, and our products compared to our US competitors in the red light space are a hell of a lot cheaper as well. Even to buy it from Australia and have it shipped over from here to the States is, you're saving $400 or $500 just by doing it that way, just because of the relationships we have with our engineers here in Australia. So we can build them cheap and efficiently and get them out, which is great because we partner with suppliers that just understand the I guess the ethical and educational thing that we want to be doing, and they're happy not to just smash us on price, so we can pass it on to the customers as well. So yeah, huge opportunity for red light, those that want to get into it and don't want to pay ridiculous prices. And we've for instance, the Mini you can pick up from us for about $220 with free shipping, and the US equivalent is about $400-500. Wow. So you're getting a better device for half the price. It's a no-brainer.
And we have our code.
Yeah, we have our code, baby.
Yeah, and that as well. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, use the code as well, and it's going to be $200. So.
Yes, it's the best. I meditate in front of it. I'll journal in front of it. I'll pray in front of it. It's just like, I won't pray to it, but I'll pray. I'll pray while using it. But it's incredible.
Yeah, I just love how passionate and thorough you and your team are. It's just why we love you and trust the brand and just tell everyone we know about it. So thank you as always. Learning so much from you. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I feel like there's so many people that haven't listened to that first episode. So these two are very different, but please go back and listen to that first one. And as always, we have our code almost30 for 15% off BLUblox.
Yes, you guys have to get your BLUblox, either the Remedy Sleep Mask, Sleep Mask, the Summer Glow. I'm wearing the Magnums, and then we're gonna get them some red lights. We should get some for our team. I actually love giving the red light. I think it'll be great to give the red light device as like a gift to people. I think it's something people don't always want to buy for themselves, but is something that really can improve so many areas of your life. We appreciate you, Andy. This was such a delight. Tell Katie hi. I wish we could see you in person, and I'm excited for when you guys have the borders open and we can, be together again.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for having me back on and asking such great questions. You guys always do. You always get my brain ticking. So super appreciate that as well.
Amazing.
All right. Well, we will see you soon. And thank you again.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.